You had your chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from West St. Paul Studios, it's time for MinneZona Sports Live with DJ Matty C and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back, yes! Episode 144, 144 episodes of MinneZona Sports Live after a one-week hiatus. And without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Callahan, a.k.a. Callie, a.k.a. Matty C, etc., etc., etc. And all the way from what? Oh, no, not anymore. But we do not have the Shield tonight, unfortunately. I know, it's tough. It's tough. He is getting moved in St. Cloud. But we do have a special guest filling in for Voldy tonight, and that is our guy, Mikey Ryan. Mikey, what's happening? What's going on?
Oh, it's happening, man. It's been a while since I've been on. But all things are good. Hopefully Voldy's watching, either live or maybe later. But
yeah.
Always happy to fill in for him when I can.
Exactly, and when we have you on, it's usually Vikings and things like that. But we're actually going to switch things up, and sort of, kind of, because Tater Tot Hot Take's going to be Wolves and Twins, and then we're going to get into some Lamar Vikings talk. And again, I'm not a huge fan of it, but we'll talk about that more. ARA, tonight we have some pretty doggone good ones, if I may say so myself. Hopefully Voldy will approve, but the gopherhockey team, they're in the FrozenFour. They play tomorrow, so we'll be talking about that on that little taunt thing that happened at the national championship for the women's college, LSU and Iowa. So that'll get controversial. Tiger, talking about Tiger Woods, close to retirement, maybe. Yeah. And then UConn wins its 5th title for ARA and whatnot. And then we're going to wrap things up. Mikey's going to give us a couple guys to look at for the Minnesota Vikings coming with the draft to round things up. And obviously no Shield shout-outs, but we'll make sure that we get those to you next week. So we'll be good to go there. But, Mikey, I say we just get right going with some Tater Tot Hot Take. Let's jump right into it. So it's time for some Tater Tot Hot Take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
All right, it is time for some Tater Tot Hot Take. And tonight we're starting off with the Timberwolves. If you, I don't know if you tuned in at all, Maine, but some people definitely did.
Yeah.
I know the Wolves won last night against the Nets. Okay, that's fine, whatever. I'm glad they did. But that game on Sunday, what the hell? That's all I gotta say, is what the hell? You lost. I told Mikey, you and I were talking before the show. They lost to a G League team. If they lost bad, like I would have been just over the moon. But they lost by 2. But still,
yes,
you have Anthony Edwards, Cat, Gobert, who you traded a fortune for goodness sake, and then you have Mike Conley. How do you lose to the Trailblazers when they don't have Damian Lillard, when they don't have half of their team, for goodness sake? I mean, I can't believe it. And this is the largest upset in 30 years. 30 years. They were like 19-point favorites to beat this team. So, Mikey, I asked you, and I asked this of the zoners. We've got, like, zero faith in the Wolves getting out of the play-in tournament, don't we? I mean, like right now, losing to that team, I mean, what do you think, Maine?
I don't know what to say. That's classic Timberwolves basketball, really, right? It's they always try to make it to where we kind of care, or we get to a point where, hey, we might have a shot to get into the playoffs, maybe be upset spoiler, and then they go out and perform like this. Unreal, right?
I know.
There's no way we make it in. Well, there's no way we don't make it into the play-in tournament at this point. But we were fighting for that 8 seed. Now there's no way we're getting that 8 seed. Not with that performance. Not with 2 games left. And the Pelicans, I believe, are a game ahead of us or something like that.
Yeah.
But there's no way. And like when we get into the play-in game, like my money's on the Thunder.
The Thunder. And I mean, the Thunder were supposed to be the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
And now they're playing for the play-in. I mean, the Wolves were supposed to at least be a 3 or 4 or 5 seed, and they're sitting. They're trying to fight for their playoff lives.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's ridiculous. But I mean, what can you say? I mean, here's what I think. And I think people would agree with me on this too. And please let us know what you guys think in the chat. But there's not a leadership guy in that locker room.
No.
And I think I've said this before, and if I haven't, then it needs to be said again. if you want Cat to be the guy, which the Timberwolves paid him to be the guy, he's got to act like a leader here and rally the troops.
100%.
And they have not done that with him. Now, I'm kind of giving a pass to Anthony Edwards because I feel like, at some point he probably will be that guy and be that vocal leader that they desperately need. But if you want to differentiate what's happening right now and what happened last year, the Wolves were really good last year. Don't get me wrong. But you know what I think was the main factor for them? Patrick Beverley. And the Wolves desperately miss him because they don't have that leadership that they had last year. And Cat if you're paying him to be that guy, he has to be that guy. Stop complaining to the refs. Stop doing things that, that is going to, people look at you as a crybaby. Mm-hmm. Be that leader, man. You have to. I mean, it's for the sake of the franchise. You sign that extension to stay here. I mean, people are starting to talk in the offseason about maybe even trading him. Yeah. Because they're sick of it. So, we have to challenge Cat and say, Cat, you need to take ownership and help this team. Because right now, you lost to a team that should be playing in the G League, for goodness sake. The G League, all right? And it's just absurd. But we got some zoners chiming in. Knutson, Tyler Knutson, our guy, getting our stickers. Thank you, Tyler, and Crown Rental as well. Yeah. Gotta be Ant. Cat is no leader, and Gobert doesn't seem like that dude. Exactly, yep. And that's what I'm saying. When you give all those picks and those guys, I mean, Kessler's one of the best rookies right now. If you had him on the Wolves, I mean, you'd be saying something different. So, I mean, Gobert, I feel like he's good, and then he has a bad stretch. Then he's good, he has a bad stretch. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of inconsistency. Stuffage says, who should the Wolves get for a leader? Like I said before, when the Lakers got rid of Patrick Beverley, the Wolves should have been all over that.
Yep.
They should have been all over that and brought him back because you know what? I'm going to say this right now. If they went and got him, they wouldn't be in the position that they'd be in right now. They would actually possibly not even have to play in the play-in because he was that guy. And they respected Patrick Beverley. So that's kind of my spiel on it. That, I think, is the missing piece to what is going on with this team. So would you agree with that, Mikey, and the zoners?
100%. I mean, that's what it is. And Cat, I get, not Kevin Durant, in terms of talent, but Kevin Durant in terms of, his leadership vibe. He doesn't want to be a part of it, right?
Right.
He, how Kevin Durant handled the Kyrie Irving situation, right?
Oh, God.
It was just, it seems like it's kind of like that. Cat just wants to be, on his own and do his own thing, which is fine. But when you're a superstar and you want to be the center point of an entire team, you have to be a leader, right? All the greats are leaders. You look at Kobe, you look at LeBron, you look at Jordan, you look at even the guys underneath them, right? Yep. They're all leaders in their own right. You have to be that kind of guy. And Ant, I think, could be, but he's young, right? And Gobert, he's brand new. Cat is then the center point of the Wolves since he joined, right? So he should naturally step into that leadership type of role, but it seems like he doesn't want it, and that's what the Wolves sorely need out of anybody on their roster.
Yep, and I think that's the big issue. Granted, I do want to give a little bit of credit for them beating a pretty good Nets team without Kevin Durant, with Bridges, who's been very good for the Nets these past couple of months with them trading away, and Kyrie and him, and so there's a lot of that was positive. They had to win that game. in order to prove to people, hey, we're not fully out of this right now. But this could get worse. And that's the issue, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's the issue right now with this team is someone has to be that vocal leader. And that person has to be Cat right now. And I don't want him complaining to the refs. I get so sick and tired of him going to the ref after every calling for a foul or saying that was a foul or saying he was foul. Just stop.
Yep.
Stop. You know, if you want to be a leader. I mean, I know LeBron will get on the refs sometimes. I know, Kobe would at times. I get that, but he does it too much. He does it way too much. Lucas says, let's go. You're right. I'm curious your thoughts on the Wolves here, Lucas. So throw it in the chat, the current state, I should say. Tyler says, also, Cat should not be taking the last shot of the game like he did a few games ago. When Ant is on the floor, it's his shot 100%.
Yeah, agreed.
Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to pinpoint here is center this team around Anthony Edwards, and you will be fine. You have Jaden McDaniels, who has been pretty good. I think the only knock I give on Jaden McDaniels is he's not very consistent from three. Mm-hmm. He's a very, very good defender. Don't get me wrong. He's very good. He's kind of like that guy that can lock down the top guy on your team. I think Jaden McDaniels is very underappreciated, but I think he needs to work a little bit on his shot in order to kind of, solidify him as a, two-way player, yep. Which I think he definitely can be, but it's tough. And that's why in the lower third, right here, Mikey, this is perfect. All bark, no bite. That's just how it is.
That's how they are.
That's how they are. So, you guys can put in the chat your thoughts on either Sunday or how they played against Brooklyn. They played all right against Brooklyn, but we're just gonna have to see the end of the season. They have to get a fire under their butt and get going and finish strong. Who knows? If things fall into place, you could sneak back right up. You don't have to go in the play-in, tournament.
Exactly.
So,
if the Pelicans just lose the rest of their games, right? We play them at the end of the season.
Yeah. And then Zion will probably get hurt. So, I mean, there's always that to, go with too. But we'll see. So, we'll keep an eye on things and, go from there. So, let's move to our next Tater Tot Hot Take. Minnesota Twins. They were 3-0 at one point.
Yep.
They were starting off really hot. They dismantled the Royals. But these past and then, the game against they were 4-0, I should say. The first game against Miami, they won pretty handily. Joey Gallo's been on fire, hitting home run after home run after home run. And then they've lost these last two. But, Mikey, this is very interesting. They haven't lost because of pitching. They haven't lost because of pitching. I'm happy about that.
But
It's
shocked.
about the bats. I know. Aren't you shocked? But hey, the Lopez guy who they traded for this game today, he went 7 innings, 1 earned run.
Yeah.
That's really good.
That's what we need.
That's exactly what you want to see. So, I know they lost the past 2, but the bats are gonna, sometimes you're not gonna have.
They're gonna go hot and cold all the time.
Yeah, hot and cold, exactly. So, but Mikey, what are your thoughts so far on this Twins team? I mean, is there some hope? And I'd say they might have a chance to win the division. What do you think?
I would say they have a pretty good chance of winning the division. It's a long season still. We've only played, 6 games out of the 162 or whatever.
Yeah.
But we definitely have a shot. I think this is the most excited I've seen about, the Twins, just hearing buzz in general, that we've had in a long time. The pitching is there, finally, after, decades of us screaming about it. But the pieces have been there, the front office did excellent job this time in the offseason of getting the pieces that we needed to get to this position. Like, granted, we'll see how it works out overall, but the beginning of this season looks very promising.
Yep.
And you're always going to win a third of the games and then lose a third of the games. You always find out who's the best team within that last third, right? If the Twins can do their last third and win them, we're going to go far, I think, this year.
Let's hope. And there's one thing I want to bring up, and this has been, I feel like it's been, forever, but Kenta Maeda, he's back.
Yeah.
I mean, a 2-year absence and the Tommy John, just all the injury issues, and he pitched pretty well. Unfortunately, there was some hiccup or something, there's some tweak, but they say he's fine. But I mean, pretty solid. I mean, especially an injury like that, and especially the year that he had before he had the injury was quite good. So I'm hoping that he can keep things up. And some of the moves they made, I mean, the Gallo thing, I was kind of like, this better not be another Logan Morrison deal.
Yeah.
They're going to be, he's hitting 190 or $150 and striking out more than he's actually hitting home runs. But Joey Gallo's been destroying the ball. Lights out. And also, one other thing, too. I mean, he's doing what Sano was supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate with Sano because, I mean, there's so much potential with him.
Yeah, we gave him all the chances we could, though, really.
Yeah, exactly. Easy A says, Matt yelling pitching with the crying, laughing emojis. I know. I mean, that's the bit. I mean, everything with pitching, and they don't seem to listen to me. Much like the poll ads, they don't listen to me. They don't give a damn what I think.
No.
But, I mean, they'll save their money, and, I'll just keep yelling at them until they do and prove that they won't win anything until they actually spend some money. So, Tyler says today has to have been the first time Solano has hit his third in his pro career. Like, what? I don't understand what Rocco does with his batting lineups, but I hope it works. I've been calling for the Twins to maybe move on from Baldelli because I just don't like the way that he's made decisions for our Minnesota Twins. But I'm willing to give him another chance this season if they turn out to be, pretty good. But if they miss the playoffs and if it's like really bad, I think you got to make a change.
Yeah,
because
this is his season. He's on the hot seat, I think.
I think he's on the hot seat too, and that's just my opinion on it. But I'm getting so sick and tired of him going by the sabermetrics and analytics. That is the only thing that has ruined this team is, sabermetrics and analytics. Everyone's doing it, and we might as well do it too because it makes sense. If a guy is pitching into the 6th inning and has been lights out, you put him in the 7th inning.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You put him in the 7th inning.
You keep the hot hand.
Yes.
It's always been how baseball is. Like, come on.
When they did that in the 2020 season against the Astros, and they took Barrios out when he was lights out, that was the end of him. I mean, it's always... And the bullpen, I'm always just... I try to hold my breath, and hopefully the bullpen can stay consistent. But a lot of the times they don't. I mean,
whenever the bullpen comes in, everybody in the stadium's like, are we going to see the blowout this time? Or?
Yeah. So, let's see. Easy A says, gave Sano way too many chances. Yeah. Well, especially, I mean, I get it from the standpoint of them wanting to give him those chances because it's there. It's just he has
you can see it.
He has to show that to people.
Yeah.
He has to, and he hasn't, and that's the issue. And I think, especially after last year, they're like, we're done. This isn't working. Yeah. We got to move on, and they did, which I'm happy with.
It's so frustrating. He has like 2 or 3 game spans where he flashes it, right? Where it's like, oh, now he's finally going to come around and turn it on. And then he goes cold for 20 games in a row. It's like, come on.
I know. And, people, complain about Buxton, complain about Buxton. But when Buxton's in the lineup, guess what? They win.
Yeah, they win games, 100%.
That's just how it works. Tyler says agreed. Rocco out, Morneau in. I could see it.
Yeah, if Morneau wants it.
If he wants it, I wouldn't be opposed to that. The only thing that gives me worry is sometimes I think when this is not a knock on Morneau because I love Justin Morneau, and I always thought he was a damn good baseball player for the Minnesota Twins. But we have to be careful because sometimes, like, for example, we're comparing two different sports. Lindsay Whalen, they bring her in for the basketball, for the Gophers. It didn't work out. They wanted her, she wanted that team to play like her. When everyone's different. And people have brought that up and whatnot. I'm not saying Morneau is going to do the same thing. I'm just saying Morneau has to. I almost feel like if he starts like maybe in, I don't know. They've changed it so many times. Like AA is the top one now. I don't know. It's weird. But if he goes to the Saints, St. Paul Saints, starts there and then maybe works his way up. But right out of the gate, bringing in Morneau, I don't know. I'd be kind of hesitant, but at the same time. Who knows? He probably would take it in a heartbeat, but we'll see. I'm not fully away from that, but I agree with you, Mikey. I think there's a lot to be said with this team, and we'll see how it goes. You'll be at the game on Saturday.
I will be.
Hopefully they'll get going, and it's gonna be fantastic.
Yeah.
On Saturday, so enjoy that, and then They don't play tomorrow, but they play Friday. So hopefully,
that's their home opener.
Yeah, home opener. And who do they play again? Remind me.
Oh gosh, I think it's the Astros.
Is it? Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I did see it. Yeah, it's the Stros, the cheaters. Yeah. But no.
Bring your trash cans.
Bring your trash cans. Oh gosh, it's too good. But hopefully they'll get a sweep. I like it. The trash cans. You're right. Exactly, Tyler. So, anyway, that'll do it for Tater Tot Hot Take. That was fun talking Wolves.
Oh, yeah.
Twins and whatnot. But let's get to our Minnesota Vikings. Now, Mikey, this one, there's been a lot of talk. And, people are saying, are the Vikings, they have the second best odds to get Lamar Jackson. Are they going to get Lamar Jackson? They should get Lamar Jackson. Let's just get Lamar Jackson. Let's just take a breath and talk about this for a second. And I'm going to explain why I think it's a bad idea for the Minnesota Vikings to go out and get Lamar Jackson. And I'll explain that in Callahan School Logic tonight here. And Mikey will give his thoughts. And then the Zoners, I want your thoughts on that whole situation. Go ahead, throw it in the chat. We'll talk about kind of why I think that it's not a great fit. And what concerns I have. I'm not fully, the thing is, I'm not fully out on it, but I just think it's not a good idea. So, I say we get it going with, let's head to the classroom. It's time for Callahan School of Logic.
Class is in session. You're enrolled in Callahan's School of Logic.
All right, Zoners, Mikey, get your pen, get your pencil, get your pad of paper, whatever you got. It's time for Callahan School of Logic. Right now, as you can see in the lower third, and Mikey, we talked about it before the show, and some of the Zoners kind of have their opinions on it too. But Lamar is not the answer. And here, I want to preface this by saying I think Lamar's a very good quarterback. I think he can be very effective as a thrower. And obviously, you've seen him run. The guy's electric, right?
Yeah.
And, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But there's just a part of me that doesn't think that this can work for our Minnesota Vikings. Now, I know you're probably thinking, hey, we haven't had this type of quarterback really on our team. Maybe we can, make it so the offense, works around him and things like that. Could it work? Sure. Maybe. But here's a couple issues. He's got to show that he's the guy. And I think if you're the Ravens, you're pretty stupid, or feeling pretty stupid right now for not paying him, because you're just letting a generational talent go, unless you figure out and make a deal, which I don't think at this point they're going to do. But their odds wouldn't be in the Vikings' favor if they went out and got Lamar Jackson. I already have one zoner chiming in, Stuffage, saying no Lamar, please. So we got one zoner that's not. If you think that they should, please let me know in the chat too. So I mean, I'm all for hearing all opinions on it. So here's the first reason why I don't think they should. Money. He costs a lot of money. Have you guys seen how much he's asking for? Have you seen, how much of cap space he will eat up? That's not good. The Vikings have like $1 million in cap space right now. They do. I mean, even if you trade Kirk, even if you trade Za'Darius, I mean, you're still in a state where you don't have a lot of cap room. So, he wants the big money, and if you want to extend Justin Jefferson, upgrading your defense. Oh, by the way, remember that defense? It was 31st last year. One of the worst defenses.
Yeah.
In the playoffs. The Giants they shouldn't have. The Giants should not have ran all over us past all that whole deal. Okay? And we have to realize that it's going to eat up a lot of cap space. Doesn't give the Purple enough wiggle room to get high-profile guys on the defense. So, think about that for a second. You want to keep a talent like Justin Jefferson. Don't give that up. You can't give that up. You want to extend JJ. He's going to ask for a lot of money. You can't have one big contract with Lamar and have another with Justin Jefferson. And then you wouldn't have a lot left over to get high-profile guys, right?
Yeah.
So, think about that for a second, all right? It's like, well, either you choose JJ or Jackson. I will be taking Justin Jefferson 10 times out of 10. Not even 9. 10 times out of 10. And then, if you thought Kirk's contract was bad, think about this one. I mean, this one's going to be monstrous. So that's the first one. My second one, let's talk about the injuries. These past 2 seasons, Lamar Jackson has had injury issues. Now, we all know he is that running quarterback, right? Can he protect himself? Sure. But you are always, and I repeat, always at risk when you are a running quarterback. And you could get hurt easily. Ask RG3, right? Michael Vick, he's had a string of injuries before, being that guy, but he could also pass, and I think Lamar's very, very similar to what Vick was, right? So let's go over this injury bug that he's been having starting in 2020, okay? So the first one, October 7th, he had an injury with his knee. It was a knee sprain, okay? All right. You can easily come back from that, right? The next one, he has a concussion. Grade 1. That's pretty interesting. The last play in the third quarter during the divisional round game at Buffalo. So you have that going for you. And then you have the back sprain in 2021. And he was out for a couple games there. Then later on in that season, he had the ankle sprain. It was a grade 2, so not good. And so he missed the rest of the season there. And then the knee PCL sprain, missed the final 6 games, including the wild card matchup versus Cincinnati. So that's my second concern. You have to know with these injuries that you're putting up a big risk with him, okay? And I promise I'm going to get to the chats here after I'm done, and then we'll go over to Mikey. So just FYI if you're waiting to, but please give us your chats. So here's my third reason, and I think everyone would agree with this too. I don't think Lamar fits the Kevin O'Connell system. And Lamar's, like I said, running QB that can throw. I can see why people want to pull the trigger on a guy like that. I would too. Here's the issue. How would he fit into the KOC system? Let me go over a couple stats for you real quick with how Kevin O'Connell wants this Vikings offense to be. All right? So, a couple things. They don't use a lot of motion. They don't use a lot of that, especially with, we were kind of that play-action team. We'd give it to Dalvin, things like that. Do a lot of play-action. Now, they don't use as much motion. The average depth of target is down to 2 full yards. So now the the Vikings, are doing the small passes, short passing game a little bit, which kind of runs away from, giving it to Dalvin. So I think that would fit for Lamar Jackson, which I think that could work. But with the rushing offense, you're just putting yourself at risk. And you have to have the O-line to be solid because the interior right now, not so good, right? So we got to be mindful of that. So the yards, the carries for running backs went significantly down from 2021 to 2022, 449 to 137. So that's a big jump. So if you want Lamar to be that running quarterback, he's going to have to improvise. He's going to have to be the guy to go off schedule. Kirk Cousins wants to go on schedule, right? So, how does he adjust? And I just don't think that's a fit. When you have this offense structured to be like, this guy's going to be here, you can go with this option, you can go with that option. You want to have, as the Curve Doctor likes to say, you always want to have options. So, not saying that Lamar doesn't make, if he can scramble out of the pocket, get, find guys open, that's great. But sometimes that doesn't work if you have some solid corners and, a solid defense. So I don't think you can build the offense that Baltimore has built, right? So that's something to factor in too. So I just don't see the offense working for Lamar Jackson because the Vikings would have to make some significant changes if they were to go with him. And another interesting fact too, they have designed run plays for Lamar. How are you going to copy that from what Baltimore did? So if unless KOC is like the best offensive coordinator you've ever seen, we'll see, how things go. So there's that. So those are my 3 reasons, and let me wrap this up here. If the Vikings end up swinging for the fences and trading for Lamar, I'd feel very uneasy. I think a lot of people would kind of feel the same way. But here's the thing, Mikey and Zoners. I wouldn't be upset. I really wouldn't. Because this could be that guy that sets you over the edge, right? Who wouldn't want that, right? Maybe that happens. And this is a lot of speculation. But it's ballsy. And it's a huge risk. Mm-hmm. Huge risk. So the logic in all this, if the Vikings were to go and get Lamar, you have to dot your I's and cross your T's. Because if you're going to roll the dice on Lamar, you better do your homework. And you better have a plan to how you're going to conduct that offense, how you're going to, attack a lot of these teams. So my advice to the front office, think it through, but I'd say at this point, in my opinion, don't do it. Focus on a guy that you can build, sit behind Kirk maybe for a little bit, and, see how it goes. So that's my spiel. I don't think it's a great idea for the Vikings. The logic in all this, I don't think you go and get Lamar Jackson. I like Lamar Jackson. I have nothing against Lamar Jackson, but it's too big a risk, in my opinion. So I'll get to the zoners, then I'm going to get to Mikey. Your thoughts on this? Tyler says, if we get Lamar, JJ is gone. Can't lock them both up. Exactly. J-Man, Jared. Jackson would be cool, but we have bigger problems in QB. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. 31st ranked defense, okay? Not good. The Buxton of the NFL, elite talent that can't stay on the field. I mean, is he wrong? Is he wrong? I don't know. So Mikey, what do you think?
It's hard to argue against your points, right? 100. I agree with you 100% about the contract, right? It would significantly hinder the Vikings in doing future contracts, especially with JJ, right? JJ, I think, is our number one priority to lock up soon, right? And the sooner the better.
Yep.
So I can't really argue with that first point. The second point with the injuries, yes, he is getting older, but I also think Baltimore's medical staff isn't super great. So there might be some room for the Vikings in that regard where we could possibly make the room, right? And I'm playing devil's advocate here. I agree with Matt, right? I think Lamar coming here would be the biggest gamble the franchise has probably taken since Herschel Walker, and we all know how that one turned out, right? But I think the third point about it not fitting our offensive scheme, I think you could very much argue that KOC could build the offense around us, right? Right now, our offensive line, yes, it's not tailored for how Baltimore runs their offense, right? Where it's a power offense. Right. They're doing a lot of power O. They're running with their running back. They're running with Lamar because that's their best playmakers, right? They don't have the wide receivers for Lamar to sit back in the pocket, make plays with his legs, and throw it downfield, right? But that's what the Vikings have. We have good wide receivers, right? So Lamar could, if he was willing to, could mold his play style around the Vikings, and the Vikings could do the same for Lamar, right? We could kind of incorporate both. And I think that's ultimately what Lamar wants to do. I think he wants to be that throwing quarterback that can run at times.
Sure.
Because that's eventually, it's going to catch up to him, right? Like, it's like every running back. You're going to get those the treads on the tire worn down to the point where you can't do what you usually do, especially when it gets up there to like 32, 33, 34 years of age, right? He's going to have to change how he plays. Otherwise, he's going to end up like Cam Newton, right?
There you go.
So I think for the third point, it's definitely arguable. I think they would definitely change what we do. We're going to have to move pieces around, but it would be kind of like what LA did, right? If we went for Lamar, it would be the one shot to get the Super Bowl. And if we didn't get the Super Bowl, then we'd have to completely rebuild at that point.
Right.
Or it'd be like the 2009-2010 Vikings where we had that shot, we lost to the Aints, and then we tried to run it back one more time, and it didn't work out very well. We tried it before. History repeats itself all over the time. I would be again. It's so weird, right, with Lamar because, like, yes, he would be. He's a generational talent. He would change the Vikings' offensive potency to they would crank it up to 11, right? We'd be unbelievable. But it's hard to go for it because of the glaring issues we have all on the other side of the ball.
Yeah.
The defense needs a complete revamp. Like, we don't have the money to spend on the offense, which already is potent. It's already good. Like, we were, 5th, 6th in the league or something like that? I can't remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly where we were in the rankings, but like we were scoring points and we were doing it well. Yes, we were hot and cold at times, and it was very frustrating as a Vikings fan to watch us go down the field, score a bunch, and then when we want to like slit their throat and put it them into the ground, we would lay back. And the defense would always just let them come back into the game, and then at the fourth quarter, the Vikings would find a way to get down and score, like right at the end, and we'd win those very close games. We won almost all the close games last year.
Yeah.
But it's hard to argue about getting Lamar. I just don't think it's possible. Like, if our defense was better, yes, pull the trigger, go for it, get that Super Bowl ring that we all desperately want.
Yeah.
But you can't really justify it. Like, and it's again nothing against Lamar. It's just how the Vikings organization is molded at this particular point.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I want to put a positive on this, because I feel like you're bashing Lamar. I'm really not. I'm just saying I just don't think it's worth the risk. This isn't a guy that you're going to. I mean, if you wanted to push your chips in on him, you would have done it already.
Yep, 100%.
Right? Yeah, I mean, they would have done it already. And at this point, you can't just make that trade now and think, well, we got rid of the Kirk contract. Now we got this big contract, and now we can't re-sign JJ. Oh, exactly. We can't get any guy. I mean,
because what does he want? He wants like what, $230 million of
he wanted the Deshaun Watson deal.
Yeah, I mean that's the contract that reset the market. The Browns really screwed the rest of the NFL over.
I mean, the fact that they gave him that much money for a guy that's
we
all know the deal.
Unreal.
We all know the deal. But let's get to our zoners. So Tyler's saying Mikey firing shots at Baltimore's medical staff. Love it. And got Cam too. So, dang. That's, I mean, I think you could really rip more the Miami Dolphins. I mean,
100%.
And all that stuff. But, Baltimore's just so weird. That whole contract negotiation with Lamar, if I'm Baltimore, I'm trying to sign him. Why aren't you signing him?
It's the lifeblood of that offense. Like, I don't understand. They've burned the bridge at this point. There's no way they can try to get him back. Like, there's too much bad blood.
Yeah. He wanted to trade March 2nd, like he said on his Twitter. And another thing, too, is who are you going to get? Who are you going to get? You don't have anybody else. Tyler Huntley? Oh, he made the Pro Bowl. Well, the Pro Bowl was a joke.
Pro Bowl because everybody else didn't want to go.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I do want to bring up, which I think would be a benefit. So let's just say, okay, let's think for a second and say, okay, the Minnesota Vikings end up getting Lamar Jackson, okay?
Yep.
Let's talk about some positive things here real quick, and then we'll get to ARA. He uses the tight end a lot.
Oh, 100%.
Just think of how good TJ Hawkinson could really be with Lamar.
Mark Andrews was a fantasy machine last year.
Yeah. And the year before that? I mean, there's a lot of positives with that. Wide receivers, not as good, and that's why I think if you went and got Lamar, you're not getting JJ. So that is something you don't want to do. Yeah, right?
I want to throw in that I think that's almost a product of what Baltimore has and not a product of like what Lamar likes to throw to. Like, I think he does favor the tight ends because they're usually the safety outlet, right?
Right.
But I think they what was the last like burner they had? Hollywood Brown.
Yep.
I believe. And like, no disrespect to him, but he's no JJ, right?
Yeah,
he's not Justin Jefferson. And
right.
I don't think anyone is in the league, really. He's that special of a guy, right? So I think he would take more chances to throw it deep, and that's what Lamar, I think, wants to do. He wants to make those off-schedule plays, use his legs, and then throw it deep. JJ is going to play basketball at that point and just go up and grab it.
Just think. The 3 seasons that Justin Jefferson has been with the Minnesota Vikings, he has had one of the best 3 years a wide receiver can have.
Yep.
And guess who's throwing him the ball? Kirk Cousins. So I don't know if you do that with Lamar. That's just my thing, okay? People want to rip on Kirk, fine. But Kirk's made JJ into a freaking star. So I just wanted to throw that in there. So if they end up getting him, I'll be very uneasy about it, but I'll try to think of the positive if they end up doing it. But I don't want JJ to go. I don't want it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't let him go. So
No.
And then, Tyler brings up another good point here. JJ's stats have improved each year, right? Exactly.
100%.
Exactly. He was on. Wasn't he on pace this year to get to 2,000 yards? Right.
I think he was close. Yeah.
Yeah, he was very close. So, I mean, you have to make a deal and get that done. So.
The last wide receiver we had this good was what? Randy Moss, and look at how bad our wide receivers were after we traded him away. We tried the Troy Williamson experiment. We all know how that finished off, right? One touchdown in 3 years. Yeah, it's like Laquan Treadwell. The list goes on and on.
I mean, not like first round, but guys like Thielen and Diggs. Diggs was fifth or sixth.
Yeah, and then Thielen was undrafted, right? Those were diamonds in the rough that we got very lucky that they turned out as well as they did, right? But the known commodities that we tried drafting almost always turned out bad.
Yeah. Well, now when you have the first round with a wide receiver, it's actually maybe turning into our favor with JJ.
Yeah.
So we'll take it. All right. Well, that was a good chat. I really enjoyed that, talking with Lamar. We brought up almost everything we can bring up with that whole situation. But let's get into some ARA. We've got some really good ones. The Gopher hockey team will be playing the FrozenFour this weekend, tomorrow, I should say. And then we're going to talk about that whole taunting controversy with angelreese, caitlinclark, so we'll be talking about that. We'll talk about Tiger. Is Tiger going to be retiring? Maybe. I don't know. Then we'll talk about the UConn 5th title as well. So, Mikey, let's get it going with some absurd or approved.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, it is time for Absurd or Approved. So, Voldy, why don't you... oh, wait, never mind. Gotcha. I guess, Maddie, why don't you rattle them off for us, please? So, our first story tonight is the Gopher hockey team. They're in the FrozenFour. Claps all around for that hockey team. We've had some former cadets actually play for that team. Christian Isaacson, Tommy Novak, and a lot of those guys. So we're happy for those Gophers. One person that's probably not as happy is Voldy, because obviously with UND, he loves the Sioux, or not. It's not anymore, but it's the Fighting Hawks. And Rattel, Rattel's probably bummed about that too. But they play the Boston University tomorrow, I believe at 6 p.m. So again, it's been since, was it 2002, 2003 they won the national championship? So
I think that was the last one, yep.
Yep, and it's been a long time, but I think this might be the year. I think it very well might be the year. So the question I asked you, Mikey, and the Zoners, is it absurd or approved? Will the Gophers win the national championship this weekend? Mikey, what do you think?
I think it's approved. I think the Gophers have a very solid roster this time around. I mean, they went through the gauntlet, the Minnesota gauntlet, it looks like, during the tournament, right? Where the NCAA is like, we don't want all the Minnesota teams to be in the FrozenFour for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
But I think they are the best team to come out of that, right? Obviously, they got through. So I think it's approved. I think they have an excellent shot, and a well-deserved shot, too. It's been, like we said, about 20 years since Minnesota brought it back, national championship, to the Twin Cities for the NCAA hockey championship. So I think this weekend is the one.
So one thing I want to give a lot of claps to this guy, and especially because he coached at St. Cloud State as well. Bob Motzko. He lost his son, was it 3 years ago or something like that. Went through a really tough time, and now they're on the verge of winning a national championship and bringing that back. That is incredible. And I think he was Coach of the Year for the NCAA for hockey. So, claps go out to him. That's unbelievable. And what he's done to the program and bringing them back. They've always been good. Don Lucia, great coach for the maroon and gold. But I just think right now this is the team. And the reason why I say that, you don't have UND nipping at your heels. And you don't have a lot of issues when it comes to what's going on with UND, what's going on with Minnesota State, Mankato, because they're always kind of in the quote unquote, they're always like in the dance, give or take. So how it all kind of goes is that I think that it's got my stamp of approval. And the reason why I say that is because they have gone in and beaten the teams that they're supposed to beat. They played St. Cloud State. They took them down. They've always been kind of a scrappy team, quote unquote. So they're kind of in there, not in there. We'll see. But the reason why it's got my stamp of approval is because this just feels like destiny for them, right? And I think when you look at this team, they're ranked number 1 for a reason, but that makes you a big target, on your back. So there's a lot going on with that, and that's something that they have to, figure out. So that one's got my stamp of approval. There's a lot of good players on this team. Brock Faber, Ryan Johnson, they've been instrumental to this great, team with the college and, things like that. So let's bring it home. Let's beat Boston. Let's get this national championship. It's been way too long. So that's got my stamp of approval. So we'll move on to the next one. We lost Mikey for a second. We will get him back, though. So be on the lookout. We will get him right back in here, and we'll keep chatting away here. So our next story for all the zoners is there's been a lot of controversy. With the national championship game between the Iowa Hawkeyes and the LSU Tigers. And it was one heck of a game. It was close for a little bit. But now, after the game, as you've all seen, angelreese goes over to Caitlinclark without her kind of knowing, as the clock's ticking down, goes up to there, does the John Cena, you can't see me, and did the ring me thing. So, it's... I have a lot to say about it, and I want Mikey to chime in on this too, so when we get him back. But I'll ask this of the zoners, and then we'll kind of go from here. But did angelreese take it too far by taunting Caitlinclark in that moment? So go ahead in the chat, let us know what you think, and we will get that to you. So we will keep you posted on that and see how things go. So the good news is that this team could be very, with Caitlinclark and everything. They had a magical run. Now with angelreese with that situation, very controversial. Don't get me wrong. Very controversial. But we'll have to see how it all plays out. I think things got really testy with the with how things went after the game, people on Twitter going off, and it's, it depends on your situation and whatnot. So I guess we'll kind of see how it goes. But Mikey, we got you.
Yeah, we got me back. My internet died for whatever reason, so I'm on my phone.
Okay, no worries. So let's, so anyway, we were quick talking about this whole, the angelreese, possibly, maybe not, hopefully not, taking it too far by taunting caitlinclark, doing the you can't see me, and then the ring me thing. So do you think it's absurd or approved? Did angelreese take it too far by taunting caitlinclark? What do you think?
I don't think so. I think it's just sports, right? It's how it goes. I think people are blowing it out of proportion. I think it's just something that is a part of the game. Emotions run wild, right? I think at the end of the day, both of them respect each other. I think the LSU player even came out and said, "Hey, I have nothing for respect for caitlinclark." It's just, when you're passionate about your sport, right, and you're super competitive about it, you're going to start taunting them because that's part of the game. You want to get in their head so that they keep performing worse, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's absurd how overblown it was, but I approve of what happened, right? I think it's just part of the game.
Yeah. And, I feel like Reese made a lot of good points, and I will say, she's a very, it's kind of like with Richard Sherman, if you think about it for a second. Yeah. When Richard Sherman came on the scene, he was very, loud and obnoxious, but he's actually really smart. And he knows he knew what he was doing. And I kind of get that from angelreese. Now, the only thing I have an issue with is, why did you do that, right at the end of the game and just go, right into, not right up in her face, but right by her and just do that? I mean, the ring me thing, I think she could have, I think that's fine. It doesn't matter. Oh yeah, we beat you guys, and then, stomping on them. But at the same time too, I feel like they have to have a villain. And she kind of showed that. And I think that's great. I mean, if you want the sport to be, people want to know how the sport goes and things like that. And, people watching that and then causing controversy, people talking on Twitter, people talking on Facebook, things like that. I think it's really good for the women's basketball game. So, there's a lot to be said with that. But, I'd say, I agree with you, Mikey. I think it's blown out of proportion. And I think, she said, you guys didn't talk about it when she did that to Louisville and things like that. She disrespected my South Carolina girls. It's isn't South Carolina your rival? Don't you want to beat the... So I didn't really understand that one because I was just kind of well, don't you want to, so anyway, she's probably got friends on the team or things like that. So, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. So Tyler says, just shows how much Clark is on her mind, living in there rent-free. So it's like that. So there's a lot of controversy surrounding it, but I think it's starting to... But, I'm not going to go as far to say about angelreese as saying, that is just so classless and just ridiculous. Things well, what are you going to do? You can't fine her. You can't do... what's the point? You're not going to do anything, anything to really discipline her or anything like that. It's the end of the season. What's the point? Now, the whole Jill Biden bring both teams to the White House, no, that's... I'm not a fan of that.
That's come on, you're ruining, the reason that the White House invites the winner, right? If you're inviting both teams, it's kind of just I think it's ridiculous. I just invite the winner, the loser, they just get to go home, right? That's part of the game.
Yep. Couldn't agree with you more. It's just kind of ridiculous. But let's just say this, though. Caitlinclark was amazing this whole March Madness. Angelreese, same thing. So again, competitors going against each other. Caitlinclark says, I don't think she should be ripped for it. Things like that. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but she stood up for her, and I think that's really cool. I really think that sticking together and things like that. But at the same time, it really doesn't bother me as much as it bothers people on Twitter. Anyway, no, I think it's absurd. I think this is exactly what they want. You want to have a villain. I mean, in wrestling, you have the baby face and the heel, right? So if you look 100%. At Caitlinclark, she could be the baby face, and there's Reese. She's the heel. So think about it like that. All right, our next one for ARA is there's been some talk, Mikey. Tiger Woods, he's going to be playing in the Masters this weekend and whatnot. His 25th appearance. So Tiger is definitely getting up there in age a little bit. He's had obviously the injuries and obviously the controversies and all that stuff. But he says he doesn't know how many Masters he has left. So this is what he was quoted saying. I don't know how many more I have in me. I know more guys on the Champions Tour than I do on the regular tour. Isn't that interesting? The overall desire to win has always been there, and I've always worked at it and believed in what I could do. And obviously, with the 2019 or 2020 Master, whatever it was, him winning that event, I think, was awesome.
Yeah, special.
It's very special. And he is 47, so he is definitely getting up there. So, Mikey, I kind of modified the ARA here. So, I kind of just put it at 2. So, I said, absurd or approved, and I asked this of the zoners as well, as always. Mm-hmm. Will Tiger Woods retire 2 years from now and play in the Champions with, is Ernie Els still playing in the old, there's a bunch of
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so you'll have to look at that. But absurd or approved, Tiger Woods will retire 2 years from now. What do you think?
How old is Charlie? Because I think he would want to probably play a Masters with his son, right? I think that would be. Yeah. I think he kind of wants to do like LeBron's always said, he wants to retire when Bronny gets into the NBA, right? He wants to play with his son. Yeah. I wouldn't find it out of the question where Tiger wants to play with Charlie in a major event, right? Especially at the Masters. I think that would be quite cool to see maybe a day one pairing where they're playing together, right?
Right.
I think Charlie's probably at least a couple of years away. I think it's more than 2. So I think for him to retire in 2 years, I think is probably a little absurd. I think he'll probably find a way. I think he's going to wait until Charlie is able to play in a Masters if he can. I would say probably if you said 4 years, I'd say it's approved 100%, right? But 2 years gives it that little window. I think I'm going to say it's absurd.
Okay. And I would have to agree with you. And here's the thing. Tiger has been almost embedded to play this as long as he can go. And right now, I mean, he's in great shape as per usual. I mean, the guy, works his tail off. I mean, ever since he's held the club, I mean, his father has embedded golf into his whole just life, his body, things like that. So he's going to have that competitiveness to keep going. Now, the reason why I put it at 2 is because, a lot of that talk is getting brought up more and more and more. So, I mean, where's the... how do you leverage that, right? So I'm in the same boat as you. I'd probably go absurd because I think in 4 years it would give my stamp of approval. 3, maybe stamp of approval there too, but I don't know. It's hard to say. I really think Tiger wants to play this as long as he can, and I think if he wants to play with his son, that'd be awesome too. I mean, gosh, I mean he's a walking image of Tiger.
Oh, I know. It's incredible how good he is.
Yeah, so I mean, and being that young too, so
Right.
So that's pretty good. But, yeah, I think it's absurd. I think he's got a little bit more in the tank. This isn't a Brady situation, I don't think.
I don't think he's trying to play forever, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, well, you both think it's absurd, so we'll just go from there. All right, our last one tonight, Mikey and the Zoners, is UConn basketball back. They won their 5th title on Monday against San Diego State, 76-59. They won their 5th title for UConn, and obviously there's a pedigree there. There's a lot of history with them winning titles and things like that. And one thing of note, this team beat teams by double digits. All their games by double digits.
Yeah.
Coming up to the national championship game. So, the question I asked to the Zoners and you, Mikey, is this. Absurd or approved? Is UConn basketball back? What do you got?
I think it's back. I mean, I think if you look at the last, 25 years of the NCAA, I think UConn is maybe first, maybe even tied for first, I think potentially with Duke for the winningest program in the last 25 years. Or something along those lines, right? Mm-hmm. So I think 100% approved. I think they're back. I think UConn might be a team that we could see potentially continue to do well in the tournament and possibly win another one in the next, maybe next year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years. UConn's always in it somewhere, right?
Yep.
They're always a dominant basketball program on women's and men's side. And so
that's for sure.
they waned off a little bit. It's been since 2014 since the last one they won, I believe.
Yep.
But I think they're back in full force. I think they have a coach there now that the players believe in. I think the program believes in him. I think he's been doing great things for them so far, and I don't see a reason why it can't continue. So I'd say it's a proof that they're back.
So I want to bring up this right here, since he is the 3rd coach for UConn to win a title. So you have Jim Calhoun, a legend, absolute legend in his own right, and then Kevin Ollie in 2014. Obviously, that team, I think that was the Kemba Walker season, which was, unbelievable. He played out of his mind, and he's pretty good NBA player. I think he's, starting to get older now, but they've had the pedigree, and I think, they're definitely back. If you're beating teams, they're getting guys back, too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
They won the national. They're going to get a lot of talent back, and it not only helps them now because it only helps them now because people are seeing this, and maybe guys will be like, oh, now it's kind of back. Maybe I want to commit there. Maybe, they get to recruit a lot of the recruiting class. So, I'd say it's back, too. It's got my stamp of approval. I watched the game on Monday night, and while I was getting ready for Zona for tonight, and honestly, I was kind of pulling for San Diego State because of Dutcher, and just to prove to the University of Minnesota basketball and the administration that they made a big mistake in not trying to get Dutcher to coach this basketball team, because look at where he got him. Props out to SDSU, though, for going out there and getting to that point. Just think, he could have done that with the goat. I'm not saying he would have. It's
a potential, though.
Potential. Now, I don't want to write off Ben Johnson just yet, because we got to see what happens next year. But I think the Gophers really missed out on getting Dutcher. So, but going back to UConn, I think they're back. Dan Hurley, he's the 3rd coach to win a title with them, and I think they're back. I think they're back. So we'll see what happens.
It's hard to argue.
It's hard to argue, but remember, was it Virginia? They lost to a 16 seed. Yeah. And then the next year they won the title. hopefully that's not a reversed role because, if they lose to a 62, they're over. But hopefully that, and I'm knocking on wood, and I mean that jokingly too, so who knows. But anyway, that will do it for Absurd or Approve this week, and it was another fun little tidbit to do some talking with the national stuff. There's a lot going on this week, and I'm glad we highlighted all this. So,
yes,
a lot of cool stuff. But before we get into your thoughts on what the draft and who you want and whatnot, I do want to, like, Voldy will probably do this next week, but I do want to throw a huge shout out to a group or an organization that's really have held up MinneZona Sports Live, and that is the Granite City Lumberjacks. We give claps out to them on winning their 4th FrazerCup title, coming back from a 3-goal deficit to defeat Alexandria 6-5. How about that? Congratulations. Congratulations to the Lumberjacks, DJ Vold, the whole team, Jimbo Vold. Congratulations. There's all this cool stuff that they're posting with the FrazerCup and everything like that. So congratulations to them. And Voldy will have a longer shout out for them too. So we are trying to do a live show from their place. So we will hopefully set that up maybe here in the summer. So keep your eye out on that. So hopefully we can get that going. All right, Mikey. Before we wrap things up, what do you got for draft stuff for us? Just give us a little tidbit on who to look out for and things like that. Then we'll wrap up the show. What do you got?
So the Vikings, unfortunately, we only have 5 draft picks. It's not a whole lot this year, unfortunately. But there are some key positions we should look out for, right? Especially in the first round. That's the key draft point that we should do, right?
Yeah.
I think definitely defensive line. We got to stop the run at this point. Defensive line is one. And I think bryanbresee, the Clemson guy, I know he has a string of issues, both off field and with injuries, right? But when he was on the field, he was a beast, right? And we're not going to get Jalen Carter. We're not going to get him. He's going to be off the board by the time we're there. Or Miles Murphy, I think the same thing. I think he'll be off the board. So I think that bryanbresee, I think he is a good option to give there. He's unreal pass rusher. I know he's probably not going to fit the 3-4 scheme we probably want to run. I think that's what Brian Flores is probably going to run. But I think he'll bring in that pass rush that we desperately need. Za'Darius was there, but who knows with Za'Darius? We don't know if we're going to keep him, trade him, what's happening with
release him, whatever.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like the contract situations with the entire team is all up in the air, right? And then let's move to wide receiver. A lot of people have been talking about going wide receiver with our first round pick because we lost Adam Thielen, right? Yeah. I would like to give KJ Osborne the shot to get the number 2 spot. I think he's earned it. I think he was very good last year at the slot, right? Where Thielen, unfortunately, was kind of overshadowed by Justin Jefferson. I mean, he had an unreal year, and Thielen didn't get a whole lot of touches. But KJ Osborne was there when you needed him to be there for that slot and the release outlet in case JJ was double or triple covered, right? So a guy that I like that people have been linking us with the Vikings is Jordanaddison out of USC. Yeah. I think he's an excellent slot receiver kind of thing, kind of spot. He's 5'11", very fast. It would complement our offense greatly. We love speed. I think speed is the killer for this offense at this point, right? So I think he's a guy to look out for. And then for the all important cornerbacks, right? We need corners.
We do.
We just got a guy from the Cardinals, right? I think we're doing okay there, Murphy, but we lost Pat Pete. We lost Shelley. Our cornerbacks were awful last year. The entire defense was but the cornerbacks especially, right? Yeah. So people I would look at potentials that could come here if they fall, like Joey Porter Jr. I think would be excellent out of Penn State.
That would be, yeah.
Yeah, or Cam Smith out of South Carolina. I think either one of those guys would be excellent. And then the last person I want to put my name out, put their name out there for would potentially be like if we wanted to trade back, if we wanted to get rid of that our first round pick, trade back down or go into the second round to get a plethora of picks, right? I think like
Hendonhooker, yeah.
Hendonhooker, yes, that's his name.
Yeah,
Hendonhooker. So like I know he had his injury, but it would be like almost a perfect situation for him to come here, sit for a year underneath Kirk. If we wanted to go away from Kirk Cousins as like the future quarterback, right?
Right.
Who knows with that situation? Like only the Vikings do at this point. They've kept their cards close to their chest, right? They're not releasing anything. They're not letting us know. They're not extending him. They're not doing anything with Kirk right now, right? So if they wanted to look for a younger talent and we don't get Lamar, we had a whole spiel about that. I think he would be a very good option if we wanted to get a high pick. But stay tuned because I do have other quarterbacks that we could take later in the draft. So come back when we do our draft. I think there are some sneaky good quarterbacks later in the rounds that we can grab.
All right. Well, there you have it. Before we go, I do have one name. I don't know if you've looked into this or not, but the wide receiver from TCU, Quentinjohnson.
Yep.
I kind of am sort of like, I don't know. I think he would be really good next to JJ.
I think he'd be excellent.
KJ?
Yeah, I think he'd be very excellent. I think he's going before we can get to him, right?
That's the thing. You'd have to trade up, so you'd have to give up a pick. And we only have 5 picks, you said?
5 picks, yeah. And we have a first and then like a third. Yeah, we have a first and a third, and then the rest is fourth, fifth, and like a seventh.
Right. I do see some mock drafts having him either ahead or behind, so it's kind of
yeah, it's in that limbo area, right? That's the beauty of the draft. Everybody either there's crazy picks and people fall, so it's all about where people land, right? And that's what makes it great for sports content.
Yeah, I like the Addison too because I like the Addison reference too. But like, I just think, oh my gosh, we would have a dominant trio. Unreal trio. And the thing is that he was so good for TCU this year that, I mean, if he's sitting there, I'd pull the trigger. I really would. I'm sorry. I know we have a lot of glaring needs, but I feel like we're not done. Yeah. I know, exactly. But, like, I know we have a lot of glaring needs on defense, but I don't know. I like that trio. JJ, QJ, and KJ. I like it. So
you got to take the best player available, right?
That's true. That's very true. So, but Mikey, we'll probably have you on again because the draft is coming up. We'll go a little bit more in depth and whatnot, and we'll get Shield on here too, and we'll be talking more about that. So we'll keep doing our research before April 27th. So hopefully the Vikings will be. We'll know more. I feel like they're not done with free agency yet because I think there's, like you said, there's glaring needs and they got to, make some moves here. So maybe they take a linebacker. I mean, you gave away.
They might. We lost Kendricks. We need a good middle linebacker now.
I mean, you restructure Hicks, which is fine. I mean, he was okay, but I don't know. I feel like Flores has this plan and I think they're just following it. So
100%.
All right, well, that will do it for a little draft snippet there. So usually it's hard. It's easy to end the show with Shield shout-outs, but we usually end the show with merch because we've got a lot of merch and shout-outs and things like that. So we have the shirts, $20, $5 shipping. We have the hats, same deal, $20, $5 shipping. And we have stickers. And we are getting more stickers. Our guy, Tyler Knutson, thank you to Tyler Knutson, Crown Rental, we're getting more. We're getting more stickers. So it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. And obviously, there's going to be more stuff. And, once we know more, we'll get it right to you. So our next Our next thing we got to shout out, W2 Performance. Mikey, you know this guy, Will Rattel. Check him out at www.w2performance.com for everything Will's doing. He's posting videos daily on YouTube. He's doing the whole spiel. So make sure you check him out. And again, thank you to National Fleet Graphic for their stickers as well. And make sure you check out the Victorious P.O.D. with Jack, Vickers, and Herman as well. So make sure you check those guys out. They're doing a lot of fantasy stuff. I know it's kind of in a limbo because, I mean, football won't be starting for a while, but they'll be talking more about that. So we will check that out. So that's going to do it for episode 144. Mikey, thanks for filling in for Shield. And, excited to talk some draft here soon. So.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a lot of stuff happening coming up here. We got the Wild in the playoffs. We got the Wolves, playing in, hopefully, to the playoffs. And you have the Twins starting up, so we got some cool.
You got a lot of stuff.
It's a good time. NFL draft, all that deal. So it's a fun time. So anyway, that'll do it for episode 144. We will hopefully see you next week. And remember, folks, keep in the zone. Holla.
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.